Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians. All right, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians. And today's episode will certainly cater to you guitar fiends out there looking to expand your quote-unquote axe-slinging expertise into other areas that can help you monetize your talent. And today's guest, aside from representing the rock star guitarist role, has undoubtedly funneled his skills in other areas that has certainly allowed him to reap more followers, endorsements, and more importantly, income. Because in all honesty, now is the time to be resourceful and acquire those additional skills to prepare yourself for when this whole impending pandemic crisis is over. You'll definitely be ahead of the curve, that's for sure. So with that being said, let's dive right in and talk about why it's so important right now to build your repertoire and add more bullets in your belt with respect to learning new skills to supplement your rock star guitarist dreams. Because like any other musician, we were all inspired at some point by either a video, a photo, or a clinic of some sort. I know I was multiple times where you witnessed someone just crushing it on a particular instrument. And since this episode focuses on guitar players, let's talk about the first time we saw Elvis or Jimi Hendrix, Eddie Van Halen, or my personal favorite, bam, ba-da-da. We all know that riff, and that's my terrible, impression of Angus Young. But we all saw them tearing up that fretboard, and so many others that followed, which inevitably led you to launch your own dreams of hopefully joining the ranks of these people and becoming a full-time rock star. And listen, that's great. And you have to hold on to that passion. But my only disclaimer is that you do not rely on just that, especially in this capricious industry, to say the least. In other words, always have a backup plan, guys, or a side hustle. And sure, keep it in the same realm of music, but just make sure that whatever it is, it's something you love or will enjoy doing, because if not, then you're just going to be miserable. I've been there, trust me, and the tendency to quit will be that much higher. So that's why I felt compelled to create an episode that can give you, my fellow guitar players, other avenues to entertain until you get that sweet gig phone call, of course. So one way that has certainly helped me and a plethora of other artists make a living is in songwriting. And in a later episode, I'll be interviewing the founder of one of the top songwriting organizations in the world. And we're going to discuss, the intricacies and opportunities that stem from songwriting. So stay tuned for that, definitely, because that's on its way. But yeah, songwriting can yield huge dividends, and I mean huge if placed properly, of course. The truth of the matter is that more than 50% of the rock stars that we've seen either live or on TV, videos, etc., crushing the market can't or don't even write their own songs. And I know myself, and believe me, guys, I am by no stretch of the imagination a guitar player. I mean, yeah, sure, I could dabble with a few chords here and there, but that's exactly why, and the point I'm trying to make as to why I did this episode. I've written 6 songs for myself that have done extremely well for me. And if I can do it, think of all you incredibly talented guitar players out there that already have that advantage of being able to play and sing. And you already learned from my previous episode with best-selling author Richard Fink and his book, Throga, that anyone who can speak can sing. So check this out. Start writing some songs. From there, you build your literary skills and simultaneously build your vocal skills while you're practicing both. And you never know. I learned what the power of a decent voice and decent guitar playing can do from living in Nashville for 2 years, which is essentially the songwriting capital of the world. People can sit for hours, man, just watching a solo artist in what are called write-arounds, where, they essentially perform songs that they've written, and people love that stuff.
Not to mention, you never know who's in the audience listening. It could be another artist looking for songs, producer or director looking for soundtracks, or as the industry calls them, sync licenses. But again, I won't get into the technicalities of sync licensing, but all I can tell you is that the possibilities are endless. And the more songs you can build in your library, the higher the chances. So get yourself a solid PRO, or for those of you who don't know what a PRO is, it's performing rights organizations like BMI, ASCAP, CSAC. I'm a BMI member myself. But at the end of the day, start uploading your catalog of demoed songs there. That's the best place to start. The second obvious choice would be if you're skilled in reading sheet music, then, perhaps you could become the inspiration for our future rock stars by becoming a guitar instructor. And if you want to take that a step further and make it a serious academic pursuit, you could attend a accredited music institution or university. And of course, yeah, that requires additional spending, but investing in yourself for me has always been a great gamble, especially when you're dishing out of your own pocket. But listen, I know tons of very successful music instructors that are making a great living right now on Skype or Zoom calls, which is the teaching norm. And above all, they're happy. And to call out all you haters out there who stipulate the whole notion that we've all heard this, music teachers are just failed rock stars, dude, this couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, in my opinion, it's the smartest thing any musician could do to come up with a solid backup plan. And in my eyes, an educator is one of the most noblest positions on the planet. I mean, think about this. You could be the reason for the future John Mayers or Yngwie Malmsteens of the world. So don't let these knuckleheads and their insecurities and jealousy of other artists skew your desire to teach, because they're all beneath you anyway. In fact, I recommend every musician to have a solid part-time or full-time job just to take the pressure off the quote-unquote next gig syndrome that, we all artists know all too well. And believe me, it sucks. I've been there many times, too many times, more times than I'd like to admit, actually. But, thankfully for me, I've had my photography career to help me get through some difficult times when there weren't any musical gigs, especially now during this pandemic. Hell, I mean, I've delivered pizzas to keep the income coming. So definitely no shame in finding another outlet for sustenance until we all begin to rock out again. Number 3, another great way to make a living that can be very consistent, which inevitably becomes lucrative as well, and not just for guitar players, I'm talking all musicians, is becoming a session guitar player or session musician. And this particular area can be pretty flexible. And if you're on top of your game with respect to technique, professionalism, style, and the big P word, punctuality. Guys, it drives me nuts when people are late. And believe me, I am not the only one in this industry. You can make a serious name for yourself and become a go-to person for major artists who can't necessarily play those big licks or solos. And if you deliver consistently, then that only leads to bigger gigs, like becoming a hired gun for tours, as special performances. And here's the kicker. As a hired gun, in most cases, you're not exclusive to one particular artist, unless, of course, you're under contract for a specific length of time. But for the most part, a hired gun is exactly what it sounds like. You're simply commissioned to kill it on a performance, whether it be in the studio, for an album, or on stage for anyone who wants to pay you, plain and simple. So again, my advice is this. If you want to keep working, always be mastering your craft, which we will discuss in a future episode with icon drummer, one of my favorite drummers, Nate Morton, at length. Because this is key at the end of the day. You get hired based on your performance, ability, and referrals. So it's in your best interest to be courteous, easygoing, and just know your stuff, guys. And you will certainly enjoy the fruits of your labor, because in this industry, word travels lightning fast. And you sure as hell don't want to be on the bashing side of the negative hearsay train, quote unquote. Trust me on that one. And finally, you can utilize your passion and knowledge of playing guitar to become a product demonstrator or social media influencer. And I won't get into too much detail because today's guest will certainly educate and demystify any concerns that you may have regarding the role of an influencer and what it truly entails. But I can tell you this from my own experiences with all of my personal endorsements with Sennheiser, Westone, Photoflex, is that you have to reciprocate. And what does that mean? If they believe in you and your talents to represent their product, then definitely go above and beyond when creating content for them. And I don't care if it's a tutorial or a promo or what have you, just make it look and make it sound professional because there is nothing better than having great relationships with your suppliers. And it just adds more to your stock as a musician and helps build integrity in the industry. And as you develop a name and become a sought after influencer, you can charge accordingly. And believe me when I tell you, companies pay a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money for a face to represent their brands. It's just the nature of the beast. So there you have it. Just a few ways that you can make your passion for guitar a living. Until you get that call to headline Madison Square Garden, of course. So don't ever lose sight of your dreams and goals that keep you motivated, but also don't just put all your eggs in one basket. And hey, you never know, you just might acquire the success and fulfillment you've always wanted in one of these areas. Think about that. And when we come back, my guest has certainly cut his teeth in all these areas with great success. And I can't wait to pick his brain on the current trends. So stick around. Another fun one is on its way.
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
All right, my fellow Mojo Maniacs, welcome to another brand new episode of Mojo for Musicians. And I got to tell you, this one is packed with a six-string punch, pun fully intended, by the way, because today's guest has literally made a career out of playing, touring, teaching, essentially tearing up his arsenal of classic guitars. And he shared the stage with some of the industry's most illustrious artists like Stevie Wonder, Ricky Martin, Thompson Square, and the list goes on. But he's also made a name for himself as a go-to sessions musician for the likes of DMX and Tupac, again, Monica, and even Santana. So, needless to say, this cat certainly knows his way around the fretboard. But here's the thing. He's also killing it in the guitar community as a highly sought-after product demonstrator and master slide guitar educator with over 12 million views. And I got to tell you, 100,000 subscribers can't be wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, a dear friend and someone who I've actually had the pleasure of sharing the stage with on a stadium level and a true traveler, Mr. RJ Ronquillo. What's up, RJ?
Hey, Manny, thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being here. I know that's a lot of bravado, bro, but you certainly deserve it, man. It's so good to have you on the show, and you're giving hustle, literally, a new meaning with all of your YouTube ventures, courses. I mean, kids love you, rock stars love you, so congrats, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun little ride, and it's been really interesting. Just kind of taking guitar into uncharted territories, I guess, business-wise.
Sure. Well, listen, one thing I can certainly attest to is that ever since the first time I met you while I was living in Nashville for a minute, you always certainly played and acted the part, of a true rock star. And in this business, as you know, you really have to be able to command all three to reap any rewards and respect. And you do that through so many of your layers of musicianship. So seriously, thanks for joining us today. Now tell me, what's big in the world of RJ Ronquillo right now?
Well,
wait. I got to cut you. By the way, how is Sonny Crockett doing? And for those of you who don't know who Crockett is, it's essentially his custom Sears J guitar from Novo Guitars. It's beautiful. This thing is like teal. It's got like this fuchsia pink guitar, and it's something like out of Happy Days. And I remember this is funny. I remember the reveal, dude. It was hilarious when Dennis, I think his name was, from the Post. I think he takes it out of the case, and your eyes were closed, and then you literally slither off the chair like a snake, man. It's the funniest thing.
that was my Oscar-winning performance.
It truly was, but it is a beautiful guitar, man. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, Sonny Crockett is resting, trying to keep warm on this guitar stand by me.
You guys got some pretty bad weather down there.
Yes. So Nashville, well, most of the southern states got a wicked winter storm. So most of us are, snowed in, icy roads, but that's fine for me because for the past couple of years, I've just been working at home.
Yeah.
I rarely, even before the the pandemic, I wasn't gigging that much. Basically, at the end of 2018, that was my last year of real touring and gigging.
Right.
And I kind of made the decision to go full time at just being, on YouTube and Instagram and being, I hate to say it, but like a guitar influencer.
Well, no, here's the thing though. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm honestly proud of all your accomplishments, but you work hard, and you deserve all the accolades and the endorsements that you're scooping up. But even though, I promise, even though I could talk about this for hours with you, just the stories and touring excursions, I'll definitely keep the questions to a minimum because I truly want to focus on the things that you have made into a career, aside from the obvious, axe slinging on stage, just to help guide our guitar listeners into other areas that perhaps can yield some decent financial returns for them, which you've done, and you've done so successfully,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So listen, question number one. It's obvious, as we just alluded to this, that the pandemic has affected the entire music industry, like in leaps and bounds. But for you, what's been the biggest challenge or challenges, but more importantly, your biggest breakthrough because of it?
Well, to tell you the truth, the pandemic and just being and staying at home and quarantining hasn't really changed my business that I'm in right now. Thankfully, knock on wood.
Right.
I think, like I said, I got out of the whole gigging, scene at the end of 2018. So 2019, 2020, up till now has just been me working at home. I have a home studio, but I also have essentially like a video studio in my house, which is awesome because this is kind of like something that I've always I've always wanted my own home studio, but I never realized I could figure out how to work a camera and edit videos and stuff.
So essentially it's worked in your favor.
It has been, and I think a lot of it was just luck getting out when I did and kind of pivoting towards this new avenue of being a content creator. So to tell you the truth, 2020 was probably one of my better years of business wise, just because I was able to churn out more work because I was home all the time. And at the same time, these companies that I work with, guitar companies, pedal companies, they were trying to stay afloat. So they were churning out, product after product, as well as I'm assuming they were saving money because there weren't any trade shows happening.
Sure.
And their operating costs were probably decreased and whatnot. So I think in my little niche that I'm in, along with, there's other guitar players and other musicians that do what I'm doing, and the companies that we work with, I think we did pretty good. So I can't say that, if, like with everybody, I guess the biggest challenge was learning how to stay at home so many days in a row. but my wife and I are homebodies as it is. So
You know, I hear you.
yeah, so we were fine, and we literally don't go anywhere. We don't even go out to eat. I mean, we'll pick up food now and then, but we haven't been to a restaurant in almost exactly a year, and we haven't traveled in a year. So,
No,
but that's
no.
fine because we're working.
I hear you, man. But you know what they say, the riches are in the niches. So, and that's essentially what you're doing. And like you, I'm also a homebody, but I think it was kind of like transitioned into that because as a photographer, as you already know,
Mm.
most of my work is in house. So I have my studio. Now I've got where I perform my live performances here. Now I've got my podcast. So I'm completely right there with you. We've all have to make some serious adjustments and transitions. Like my basement, you walk in, it's like a production studio. There's cables, microphones, cameras
Yeah, same
everywhere.
here.
So you get it. But here's the thing. Most importantly, to note that these are the things that you have to do nowadays to stay afloat. You have to make these adjustments because that's where it's all going until we get back to normalcy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have, last year I had multiple friends that were touring musicians hit
Mhm.
me up about, how to get into videos and what kind of cameras to buy and how do
Mhm.
I record, how do I edit stuff and whatnot. So
Right.
it was definitely, if you were a touring musician and, with everything that happened last year, you really had to figure out what to do since
Sure.
you didn't know, no one really expected touring to be out for the entire year.
Right.
So the sooner you were able to switch over or pivot to something else, I think the better off you were. But yeah, I mean, I had friends that ended up driving for Amazon and Grubhub and
Mm-hmm.
Uber and just doing what they needed to do to get by. And that's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, no, you do. I mean, this podcast and everything else with respect to my performances live and streaming, I mean, it's all predicated on, with kind of that forced into that corner because of the pandemic. And then essentially for me, it has given me some great dividends, a lot of great returns from it. I mean, the only downfall to last year, like you, I had a really productive and successful year last year. But, with the loss of my dad passing away from the pandemic, I had to take 2 months off because he was the reason why I started photography, music, the whole 9 yards. So aside from
Yeah.
that, my year was, pretty upbeat most of the way. So I get it, but that's a good segue actually into question number two. Aside from the old adage, practice makes perfect, and you've certainly been practicing with these the new technology and cameras, and I see it because your videos are great. But with respect to playing guitar, what would be your biggest recommendation for your fellow guitar players right now? Uh, um, Understanding what their next move should be, given the situation that we're in. So, let's address the elephant in the room. Our performances and touring, like we just discussed, all these opportunities are gone. So, what's a place of refuge for them? And how'd you find it? Did you find it easy to make that transition?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what kind of personality you have. I mean, the first thing I would recommend is, if you're a touring musician, gigging musician, and you lost all your gigs, but you
Mm-hmm.
still want to be, out there playing or, showing the world your music and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with social media, that's where it's all gone to, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. I don't even know how to use TikTok, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, there's so many ways to use these different platforms. You can obviously stream a show and hopefully get tips via PayPal or via
Right.
super chats or whatever.
I mean, let's face it, that's
You
what I'm relying on. Most of us are.
Yeah, yeah, and it works. And there's other websites that you can do live streaming shows and sell tickets,
Right.
virtual tickets, and stuff like that. So that's one way of gigging virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's income streams on YouTube. With which is a little bit harder, and I don't really recommend it. I mean, I don't recommend it right out of the gate because it does take a while to build up a following and get to the point where you can,
Sure.
monetize YouTube videos. And truthfully, you're not going to be a millionaire like right out the
Yeah,
gate.
no, I completely agree. I mean, I've delved down that road. I've got some videos on there. You know, you've got over 100,000 subscribers. I've kind of strayed away from YouTube, but in actuality, the truth is with YouTube, once you get that momentum going and your consistency has to be on top of the game, you could really start to monetize and see some great results. But again, it's all in the content and it's all about the consistency that you're doing it on a day in and day out basis. And I know that's exactly what you're doing, dude. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and what I recommend a lot is, kind of spread yourself among different things, among different platforms, which is kind of like what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Is like, yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I do these gear demos, which that's primarily how I make my living. Is the bulk of my income is from the fees that I charge for these gear demo videos. But there's also another big thing is selling digital products, whether it be guitar lesson packs or systems or backing tracks or I don't know, a merchandise,
Sure.
which is stuff that I never thought 5 years ago I would ever know how to do. But nowadays it's so easy with all these different websites to
integrate,
build a website. Yeah, build a website, create merchandise, T-shirts, and start making money off of them, and selling tablatures or transcriptions of my solos. It's just like the most random things, but they all kind of work together.
Right.
And so it's like the sum of all of that stuff that helps me stay afloat.
Now, you know what? I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I have to. So you have made a pretty good career move with respect to doing these demonstration videos. Now, aside from, having to have a great resume, in terms of history and who you've played for, because let's be realistic, all of my endorsements with Sennheiser and Westone, they want to see what you've done because it's all in the name, it's all in the followers. But how did you acquire a lot of these endorsements, and how do these guys actually reach out to you to send you these products to do these demos?
That's a good thing that you mentioned, having a resume, because to tell you the truth, that had nothing to do with me succeeding with the whole gear demo thing.
Wow, that's interesting.
I think it really didn't matter I think about like how I built up this whole, guitar gear demo thing. And it really had nothing to do with the fact that I had recorded or toured with anybody famous. It was more about just, I guess really a lot of it was my playing style. I think a lot of people gravitated towards my style of playing and my choice of genres pertaining to a particular piece of gear.
Wow.
and kind of matching a genre or a style to what I think this piece of gear is geared towards, I guess.
Wow.
But I built it up slowly. My first foray into the whole gear demonstration thing was with a company called Eastwood Guitars, which are based in Canada. And they build kind of like, at the time, budget-friendly retro style guitars. So at the time, I was really into retro 50s music.
Dude, you've always been into retros 50. You literally look like you jumped out of the book of the 1950s, man. Like you and Elvis. I'm sure there's a picture of you and Elvis there somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that was kind of like, I guess my image and my choice of music kind of fit the brand,
right,
which wasn't intentional. It was just kind of like, and I tell this story, like I basically wanted a discount on one of their guitar models. So I offered to do a video, which I had never done before, in exchange for a discount to buy the guitar, which I still have and still my favorite guitar. But that's how it started, and that's how it slowly built up. They would send me another guitar after a couple months, and then pretty soon it was like 4 or 5 guitars to demo, and I was doing this while I was gigging and touring. So it was a very good business between my touring income, and then I would come home for a couple weeks, and then I would do videos, so I had some income when I was off the road.
Sure.
So it started with that, but slowly different companies like pedal companies and amp companies and other guitar companies would see these videos, and that was kind of like my resume then.
Right.
they would see what I'm capable of producing and what I sound like and what I look like.
You literally started
And then,
building a resume within a resume, but you got to be in it to win it. And I'm glad that you're mentioning this because I got to tell you, that threw me off guard because in most cases, my endorsements with photography like PhotoFlex and Lumix and Hoodman and all these people, they want to see what you've done before they even have an inkling of saying, okay, we're going to throw you something. Let's see what you can do about it. But I think with your situation, it's a unique situation, especially now you're taking full advantage of it because these companies are also looking for an outlet. They're also looking for players to best represent their product and to eloquently deliver a very cool video because nowadays videos is so powerful, man. People really get
Mhm.
engrossed with stuff and, the attention span isn't there. So your video really has to be good. And I know your playing skills are just beyond reproach. So I think you're in perfect alignment with an industry that really desperately needs it right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better time than right now to gain free exposure through YouTube and Instagram and
Right.
social media in general. I mean, it's the easiest way to kind of put your calling card or your resume out there to show people what you can do. And we hear of people getting hired for gigs because they were seen on YouTube, like Arnel Pineda from Journey,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of works with basically any business. Is the more content I produce, that's just more ways of exposure for me, and
Right.
companies are seeing um, not only what I can do, but the fact that I have somewhat of a following, so that they know, well, this video that he did got X amount of views, which is
Right, right,
great.
right, right. It's all in the
So
numbers,
we're
man. I've known that, man. It's all in the numbers. Unfortunately, that's what it's come down to. People want to know. They don't even care how good your playing is. They're like, well, how many people are following this guy?
Yeah, and think about it, like, you know, the way of advertising, especially in the guitar industry, was through magazine ads or maybe a
Sure,
review in a magazine. And
sure.
not saying that that's going away, but I know way more people that have bought gear because of a video that they saw on
Right.
YouTube
Me
within
included.
5
Me included,
minutes.
man. I see a video of a microphone that's used, and I'm like, wow, that sounds
Yeah,
amazing. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work, so you return it. Now, places like Amazon make it so simple to return stuff. But the
yeah,
point of the matter is, there's a video for reference, and I always click on the video, so that's a great point.
yeah. And it's also an immediacy. I mean, you can put a direct link to buy the product in
Sure.
your video, and people will watch it and be like, yeah, I like it. Go down in the description and click. And then there is another way to monetize with affiliate links,
Mhm.
which, if you don't know affiliate links, companies like Amazon
Right.
or Sweetwater, you can sign up as an affiliate, and they give you a special link. And if someone clicks on your link and buys a product or any kind of product from your link that you click on, because it's all based on cookies,
Right.
then you get a small amount of a percentage, a cut. But that can add up.
Sure. It can. And
And so that's like,
you never know when that
yeah,
surge is going to hit, man. And you know what? The success of your video could actually dictate that because they're like, listen, RG's got 100,000 reviews and views actually on this video about a product. And then they see the product and you crushed it in the presentation. That's just an additional impetus for a viewer who's looking for a new pedal. They might not even need a pedal, but they're like, I'm intrigued now. I got to buy this thing.
yeah. And plus those links are good for the companies because they can kind of track
Right.
how well you're advertising for them, or promoting them, because it's kind of tied to, like, okay, so this link that we gave RJ got 1,000 clicks or something, so
Sure.
they can measure. It's a way to measure it, whereas with like magazine or newspaper advertising, you can't measure who
No, you can't.
sees the ad and buys the product from that.
Algorithms can make or break your career nowadays, and if you're on the right side of the fence, then it could be pretty lucrative, absolutely. But you and I could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna segue into question number 3. I wanted this one to be a fun one at least. So, What's your most exhilarating experience as a guitar player? And conversely, the most difficult, and how did you overcome it? Because I know we all have challenges, and I love asking this question because the answers vary so much on the scale. It's just good to know each individual personal side because we all have different tactics.
Yeah. Well, I would say the most exhilarating aspect of of my career has always been, certain live gigs,
Hmm.
just because the energy and the excitement,
Absolutely.
of those gigs. And um, I don't know, in particular, there was the one time I played with Stevie Wonder. That was kind of like, I was I don't get starstruck that often. I know
No,
a lot of
he's one
people
of my
say
idols.
that.
He's one of my vocal
I don't get
gods.
Yeah, I don't get yeah, but the way that it worked was like, we were actually shooting for a TV show. It was actually a short-lived Brian McKnight kind of variety show.
Another beast.
And yeah, it's amazing. It's actually on my YouTube channel. I think I have a video of them singing together.
I got to check it out because I love Brian McKnight, and the producer that I'm working with right now just mixed his last 2 albums. So that's interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, check it out. And during the shoot, I remember we would, during takes, we would just be sitting there or standing there on stage, and Stevie would be at the piano and the mic just noodling around. And that was the thing that stuck out with me, was that how much of a musical genius he was, just kind of improvising and making up things on the spot. And it was just like, this is like the greatest thing I've ever heard. And we're all in in-ear monitors, so I could hear his voice clearly, like in my ears. I'm like, wow.
You're in the
amazing.
experience at that moment. You're like, shut up, everybody. I just need to hear this, man. Please.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. That'll definitely be.
I wish I was a fly on the wall for that, man.
Yeah. But I mean, like, big gigs or just really hype gigs that I've played. I'm trying to think of some. When I was touring with Ricky Martin in 2007, we played some great shows, but the one that always sticks with me is the soccer stadium in Buenos Aires.
Oh my
which
God.
is
Which one?
River Plate.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's 100,000 people. That's not the floor alone.
Yeah.
That's just in the stands. Yeah. AC/DC sold that place for 3 nights. And you know what's funny?
Yeah.
As an aside, the producers of that show, we're talking like big time, well-established producers, the film directors. They're like, never in our life, in 30 years of our experience filming music videos, have we ever seen a crowd like Argentinians. They are just absolutely insane. And they're all bopping at the same time. The stadium, to the point where they're like, this was actually terrifying because you could feel the concrete stadium start to like rumble. And you thought it was, you thought it was going to like shatter any second now. So that's brilliant. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's probably the most intense feeling that I've ever felt on a gig.
Wow.
Not because, just.
I'm a little jelly, bro. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jelly, bro. Rub it in. Go ahead.
Well, I have to say, playing, it's not about the size of the crowd, but it's just the amount of energy that's being directed towards this. I wasn't the artist, thankfully. I would have freaked out, but all this energy from the crowd directed to this one person, Ricky, and just like going off of that vibe and that energy. It's just like, that's insane.
Right. No, absolutely. Like you could actually suck at that point. You don't even care.
You're
just taking it all in.
The best part is like, they're not looking at me.
Right.
I mean, they're not looking at me. They don't care. I could like pick my nose and no one would know. So,
exactly. Whatever.
So there's no pressure on me.
Right. Okay, but what's your most difficult, man? This is the one that I want to know because all the greats have their downfalls, but these are the epiphany moments that are so valuable and and they're so delicious to actually listen to because you could apply it to your own life. Because let's face it, we all have these synonymous situations where we're like, all right, what do I do now? And then you hear from people like yourselves that have been there, have been to the top, and now they're struggling just like all of us. Because we're right now, I hate to say we're all in the same boat because we're not. Some people are on yachts, some people are on ocean liners, some people are just barely floating on a piece of wood, but technically we're all in the same battle, So how did you overcome those moments?
Well, I would say like one of the hardest parts of, my career was after the big tour. What do you have to come back to? I mean, touring doesn't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's always, a break. So
Sure.
you kind of have this PTSD after the tour where you're on a high
Yeah.
from, traveling and playing for all these big crowds and making good money and staying in all these fancy hotels and stuff. And then you come
It's a huge
home.
void. It's
Yeah.
certainly a huge void.
And you
Right.
come home and most likely you've probably handed over your regular gig to somebody, or you lost your regular gig because you had to go on the road or something. So you really have nothing. So, and that was kind of hard for me, especially after the Ricky Martin tour. I ended up getting just a regular day job and hating it.
Mm.
But that was really all I could do to, just to have some income. I didn't really want to go back to playing weddings and clubs after the tour. Maybe I just didn't want to play guitar for a little bit just because I was so, overwhelmed for that year. But there's multiple times in my life where I almost gave up music, A, because I had lost interest, or B, because I wasn't making any money. I wasn't getting gigs. And, I had thoughts of going to culinary school. I thought about going to Chinese medicine school and
Dude, Chef
moving
RJ,
into different.
Chef RJ, or Chef Ronquillo has a nice name to it, man. You got to roll the
That's
R's though,
right.
but nonetheless, it's got a nice name. But no,
Yeah.
I hear you, man. I'm glad you're mentioning that because it's sometimes it's kind of embarrassing because you don't know how to face it. And like you, I did a tour with American Young Voices, 5 arenas, man. Traveling and traveling, it's fun because like you're with people that you love and they're doing the same exact thing. And it's 60,000 people sold out day in and day out. And you forget that this is just temporary. So that's a good wake up call. And I'm glad that the listeners that are actually focusing in on this conversation can understand that it's not forever. It's never forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you always have to make those adjustments. Absolutely, man. And I completely empathize with you. And it's it's a great choice of words with PTSDing because there's a huge void. Like, where do you go from here?
Yeah. I mean, you do have to, sometimes you have to suck it up and suck up your pride, or
Mm-hmm.
just like, I'm going to drive for Amazon while I wait for something else to come in. And
Dude,
that's kind of
I
like
delivered pizza.
how
I get it.
yeah, that's kind of how I did it. Was like, so after I toured with Ricky, I was based out of Miami or South Florida. And then I had this great idea to move to LA, thinking like, hey, I just had this really big gig. I'm going to move to LA and try to get some other gigs and whatnot. And I moved there, and I got little gigs here and there, but I ended up getting another day job just to make ends meet and survive in LA. And eventually I got called for some gigs that helped me out, but it was more of the same. You do a tour and then you come home and then you're unemployed. So what are you gonna do? So
well, this is the reality of it, man, and people don't understand, and that's why I put this podcast together, because it's not a life of fanfare, dude. When it's great, but when it's bad, it's pretty lonely. And again, you make these choices that to the point where you're confronted with the idea, should I just leave this? And I've been confronted with that. I took a walk away from music for 4 years, and then I just missed it so much because, listen, I know you're going to agree with me on this. When you're an artist, it's part of you, and nobody gets that. I think we all have this artistic quality in us, but those that really are in the zone and hone in on it understand it the most, because it hurts when we can't really get to that level of success that we know we desire and that we're capable of. So it's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I think I eventually just put touring on the back burner, was because partially I didn't want to travel so much anymore, because it was kind of taking a toll on my health and my rest,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you said, it's, touring isn't really a guaranteed thing. And, if you can tour every year, like we normally do in Nashville. It's great, but you can't 100% count on it. So I didn't want to, be stressed out about that anymore. So I decided to just be my own boss and stay at home, and that way I have a little more control.
Yeah.
And so far it's been great.
Yeah, no, you're doing amazing, man. I can definitely commend you on all of your efforts, because it's certainly reaping some great rewards. And I'm going to go into question number 4, because I know, man, this is incredible. 33 minutes already. It's incredible. I could talk about this stuff forever. It's a wonderful thing when you talk to like-minded people that are in it, that that have your strides, and these difficult moments and successes, tribulations, the whole 9 yards, and we're all like, at the end of the day, yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely,
cool.
absolutely.
So the fourth one, I asked this question with all the fervor in the world, because I truly appreciate, as I said before, the diversity, and the uniqueness of all the replies I get, which is what Mojo for Musicians is all about. So my question to you is this: what keeps you shredding? What keeps you YouTubing and educating, man? Because the work that it takes, and this as well as I do, behind the scenes, nobody sees that stuff, but the work that it takes to do what you do is unequivocally difficult, bro.
Well, yeah, someone was asking me this on my Saturday live stream last weekend, but I get a lot of influence, and I'm always watching what my peers are doing and other players and other musicians. And I'm always, inspired by, younger guitarists coming up, or guitarists that I've never seen before. There's tons of, bedroom, quote unquote, bedroom guitarists that are amazing, technically as well as just, musically. So I'm constantly on YouTube and Instagram. My wife can tell you how much I'm on it.
I believe you.
It's a lot about just being inspired by everyone else. So with in terms of videos and stuff, I'm always, I'm not just watching other guitar YouTubers. I'm watching, video cinematography videos and related things to kind of up my game with how to light things or shoot things or edit things even. Because, it's kind of YouTube is kind of a game, like how to grab and keep people's attention.
Sure.
So anything you can do to level up your game with that, you kind of have to figure it out. So
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you can't reinvent the wheel. Everything that you want to do has already been done. It's just a matter of putting your own spin on it, but you have to know how to do things. And that's why I created this particular podcast, because like you, I get so frustrated. There's so many incredible musicians, like jaw-dropping musicians. I'm like, bro, why are you not out there? Just pick up a camera, an iPhone, do a couple little alterations and present yourself to the world, because there's people just like you that are craving for your talent, and I agree with you. I really, really do. And it's really frustrating. And I want people to know what's hard is having to live with the regret of you not going out there and doing it. That's hard. Yeah. I don't want people to live in regret, because I know till this day, I have certain regrets. Like, I wish I would have played guitar more, but you know what? I have other people, fortunately, that do that for me. But there's certain things that I want to experiment with and better myself with. Like you, I'm a photographer. I know how to handle 35 millimeter cameras, but somebody else doesn't. So I like to show people, nah, dude, it's easy. Check this out. Just put this on, graduate it here, put the right aperture, and you're golden. I think the initial intimidation comes from being unaware, not knowing the technology, but you got to be in it to win it, to understand. And I'm glad that you're doing the research, because I got to tell you, I'm impressed by all the stuff that you've been doing, and I've been keeping up with you for a year, and you've blown up, and rightfully so, because not only do you have the talent, but you have the knowledge and the appearance. It's very professional. You're delivering all the mediums professionally, and people are just digging it when you're just yourself, and you don't have to pretend to be. So good for you, bro.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I should say I'm really genuinely interested in cameras and videography and all that stuff. So it wasn't like I forced myself to learn this stuff. I guess I kind of did, but at the same time, the more I did it, the more I was interested in it and more passionate about it. So I'm constantly trying to learn more about video editing and, different lenses and shooting styles and all that stuff. So, but that's something that, like, I don't know if you're like me, but when I am interested in a particular thing, I will like nerd out on it and just like do research and like kind of obsess over it for a long time.
Plus, learning is in the doing, bro. That's why it's so important. And I'm glad this always comes up. And this is why I know it's definitely something to harp on, because you have to do something you love, because when it's passion, if you're really deeply engrossed in it, then it's really not work, and learning more just propels that excitement. Because I remember when I first picked up a camera, I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And back in the day, when we had pterodactyls flying and stuff, we had film, so the whole dark room and everything, that was just another huge outlet for photographers. Some people didn't like taking pictures. Some people lived in the dark room, but you don't know unless you try it. And, I agree with you 100%. You have to better yourself and educating yourself to put forth the best possible product, and sometimes be exhilarating in itself. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome, bro. You rock, man. And thanks for sharing your time and knowledge with us. And as always, I'm wishing you much love, success, and abundance in all of your creative pursuits. So, keep inspiring our future rock stars and our futuring the Malmsteens and Eddie Van Halens of the world, bro.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for having me.
Nah, man, it was my pleasure. You be well, brother.
You too, man.
Oh, before I go, how do people find you?
Oh, well, I have a website, rjronquillo.com, but most people just go straight to YouTube and search for me, and I'm there.
Search for the rock god, and you'll be able to find.
Just Google me. That's what I thought. I don't have a business card anymore. Just Google me.
You're at that level. You're like, just Google me. My people will meet your people. That's it. I get it, bro. I get it. Right. All right, brother, man. Listen, I got nothing but love for you. Wishing you nothing but great things.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Manny.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.